For nearly a decade now, Overwatch has been one of gaming's biggest icons, and despite its massive popularity through gaming history, how come the reviews on Steam are overwhelmingly negative and players all over are switching over to the new Marvel Rivals? I'm Nexus, and without any filler, we're gonna go over why Overwatch and Marvel Rivals aren't even comparable. Make sure to subscribe or I go hungry. To start it off, we should look at the very core of the issue. Why does Overwatch have such a negative review in the first place, despite winning Game of the Year all the way back in 2016? Overwatch was loved before they put the number 2 in the title, but there was a specific point in time when the cracks started to show. The number one reason for the fall of Overwatch has to do with the stubbornness on meta. There will always be a meta for any video game, and a game like Overwatch being a former 6v6 shooter is very competitive. And when adding heroes, they want to make them unique and powerful, and the first thing that brought the very first crack into Overwatch is a young Swedish lady named Brigitte. I only played Overwatch 2 when it first released, but it's clear as day that the balancing of the game back then was centered around her, and more specifically, the refusal to change her. The game has had some broken metas or heroes in the past, like Mercy's 5-player Res Ultimate or Beyblade Reaper, but Brigitte was a singular issue on her own. Introduced as a support, she had a playstyle similar to Reinhardt, with melee and shield being the focus to her playstyle. But since she's a support, she's got to be able to heal. This is where issues start to rise, because to simplify things, she became an unkillable super healing monster. Her mere presence in the game had Blizzard give Ryan a unique passive to reduce knockback received because of Brigitte. Lastly, there's no reason why she should be able to do this.
And finally, if you have your ultimate available, you can actually challenge Ryan in a swing duel because of the armor buildup and the passive healing. So keep this in mind if it's like overtime and you guys are like the last two alive.
Without regurgitating the same information about goats or shield meta or the like, which you've heard 1,000 times already, we'll mention something that people want in Marvel Rivals, and that is Role Queue. Role Queue was a direct result of the previous two things I've mentioned, and here's when the player base had started to split in half. The option to play both open and role queue is active, but by having players pick and choose, you split them in half. Now it's never an even 50-50, so it could be 70-30 for role queue and open queue. Now when balancing the game and characters, you need to look at how it works for both role and open queue, and more problems will start to form because you limit the selection of heroes, and for some reason even adding a priority pass at DPS, because why the fuck not? Now we get to Overwatch 2. The beginning of the end. With the game removing the option for 2 tanks, it became a 5v5 and the problems just kept adding on and on. Without even needing to look hard, you can see where issues would rise. Hero favoritism, extremely overpowered characters too weak to be viable, and overall frustration with the game as a whole. People couldn't leave the game if they wanted to because the game had become the staple of hero shooters and there was no substitute people could choose, and they'd be stuck in a game they absolutely hated. That is, until Marvel Rivals had released just December 6, 2024. The game was anticipated to release, and obviously comparisons will occur between one hero shooter and the other, but as we all know, people have been flocking to it like no tomorrow. So let's compare the two and how they play. Overwatch 2 is currently a 5v5 while Rivals is a 6v6, and the heroes in-game don't play similarly at all, and Rivals is currently not even considering a role queue option. Now that part is among debate between people, because in Rivals they already acknowledge not considering it at all yet, and honestly I agree with it. Role queue can be restrictive, and while it might be frustrating that people want to only pick DPS over the tank and healing role, the free choice to swap to whoever you want in any match keeps it from feeling grounded into one thing. You can play damage and then swap the healer if you need it, or you can swap the tank if you think it benefits everyone. And while there will be times where toxic garbage DPS players might ruin the fun, it's all part of the freedom it gives to all the players. Now, why are Overwatch players flocking to Rivals? I mean, surely they love their own game community, and no, it's shit.
No way!
Here's my own personal input. I deleted Overwatch pretty quickly once I had fun on Marvel Rivals because, quite frankly, even when losing, the game can maintain being fun instead of just being hell on earth because the enemy team has a Sombra. The game currently has a massive number of DPS compared to both support and tanks, but that's mainly due to characters fitting the roles. This script was made on January 2nd, by the way. Rivals is also extremely beginner friendly. In Overwatch, you had to win 25 or play 50 games just to unlock characters like Kiriko or Junker Queen, and some new heroes were limited to the Battle Pass until you reach a specific tier, locking away the new content unless you bought it. While Rivals has all 33 characters available to play day one, no bullshit. Heroes in Rivals also have a much more broad and unique playstyles compared to Overwatch. In Rivals, there's a multitude of characters whose main form of damage is getting up close and personal with melee attacks, while Overwatch has Ramattra and Reinhardt, but Ramattra in his normal form shoots projectiles and Ryan has been a neutered dog that has lost his bite. All DPS heroes in Overwatch are strictly about shooting enemies. Some need more or less distance to do real damage, or some have quicker projectiles, or some shoot faster or slower. Meanwhile, Rivals has an overwhelming variety at launch, and that's before newer heroes get to be added, so we can expect something new real soon. Rivals as well doesn't have a horrible meta as of now, with people complaining about different heroes being overpowered and never managing to dot down on anything specific. After all, if everyone is overpowered, no one is. So to summarize it all up, Overwatch was once a game loved by fans that began to fall under poor business decisions and corporate greed, allowing Blizzard to do whatever they wanted. And with the release of Rivals, their empire built on stakes will fall, since Rivals has shown itself to be the better game in every category. And that's all I've got to say. See ya.